Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching 9th part of What If Naruto Mastered Ancient Shinobi Way. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
With nothing but his usual impassive face, Sasuke walked out of the room and down the corridor, but he didn't get far before coming face to face with Kabuto, Orochimaru's right-hand man and probably the one person in the world Orochimaru trusts above all else. "Which of you are you?" Kabuto inquired. A strange question, but considering the nature of Orochimaru's and Sasuke's habits, it wasn't all that strange when you think about it. "Who do you believe?" As the Sharingan appeared, he responded with a smirk. Kabuto was thrown into a vast wasteland that could not possibly exist in the normal world. He knew right away that this was the location of the transmigration, where Orochimaru took over his new hosts' minds and bodies in order to prolong his life. Orochimaru's struggle to absorb Sasuke was then witnessed by Kabuto, only to fail horribly due to Sasuke's Sharingan eyes. He couldn't understand it, and he couldn't believe he could be beaten in a place he created. However, his efforts were futile, as he was defeated. Back to reality, Kabuto realized what he had seen after Sasuke showed him how he had killed Orochimaru. "Orochimaru-sama has died," Kabuto said, unable to believe it as Sasuke remained silent. "No. This is like. I took him over." Sasuke cut him off before walking away with his back to Kabuto, as if Kabuto trying to kill him was impossible. All Kabuto could do was stand there, stunned and terrified, both sensations paralyzing him to the spot where he stood. People were still talking about the fight with Iwa, even though it had been a few weeks. Spies from various elemental countries were dispatched to gather information on the unknown village, Arashi. They all easily infiltrated and discovered nothing more than an average-sized village with average-looking ninja mulling around and perhaps one or two children practicing in public parks. Overall, Arashi remained a mystery, perplexing all of the spies. One such spy sat warily in the room, awaiting his interrogators. She looked around the room as she waited. It was unadorned and had a window in the back. How could these people obliterate a sizable force from one of the top 5 nations while appearing so weak, with no decent training facilities? She initially thought this was a trick to fool the casual observer, so she had herself captured in order to see what the casual observer couldn't. It was common knowledge that hidden villages do not tolerate spies, and if a spy is caught, they get to see what the village is truly made of and how far they are willing to go to protect their secrets. That is valuable information in and of itself. After all, a captured spy is usually a dead spy, and a dead spy gets a lot of information before they die. But, to put it mildly, this had been completely ridiculous and frustrating. They essentially invited her into their tower and then let her out. She sat in her chair, wondering if her brilliant infiltration was simply them letting her in. Perhaps this was part of their plan to ensure she was a ninja. Give her a route that any ninja could easily take. Her gaze was drawn to the door as it was opened, and a man with spiky blonde hair, piercing blue eyes, and whisker marks entered. He appeared to be in his 20s and wore what appeared to be the village's symbol on his brow. "Afternoon, Miss Kiri Spy. I hope your stay in Arashi has been comfortable so far?" he said, looking down at some sheets of paper. Before responding, the Kiri spy smiled at the man. "There's no way these idiots know I'm a spy, let alone one from Kiri. They're just guessing," she reasoned. "Let's see how much they really know. For one thing, I'm not a spy, nor am I a ninja, and two, I was having fun before one of those ninjas jumped me." For a moment, the young man appeared perplexed, then he looked down, shuffling through his papers once more, and his eyes widened before an embarrassed expression crossed his face and a nervous laugh escaped his lips. "What's wrong?" she inquired as she examined him. Could he really be a ninja? He's a complete mess, and if I didn't know any better, I'd say he's afraid of me, she reasoned. However, he is kind of cute. I'm so sorry, miss, he said with a deep bow, we seem to have gotten you mixed up with someone else. I apologize for any inconvenience we may have inadvertently caused. That isn't good enough, she declared. I came here to have fun and see the great whirlpools of Uzumaki no Kuni, and now I'm being held against my will. I demand to see who is in charge of this place. You mean Kanshisha-sama? He innocently inquired. Whatever it takes, just get him here now. I would love to, but Kanshisha-sama is extremely busy right now and cannot be disturbed, he said, terrified at the prospect of disturbing this Kanshisha person. However, if that's what you want, I can arrange for you to meet with him. Of course, but do I have to stay here? It's a little stuffy. Oh, no, you can wait in the hall or leave whenever you want. I just need to get you a form to fill out, and I'll be right back. He then exited the room, leaving the door open. As she walked into the corridor, the Kiri spy smiled from ear to ear. Another corridor connected to the corridor led to a door at the end with the storm symbol emblazoned on it. When the coast was clear, she strolled down the corridor and tried the handle. She was surprised to find it unlocked, and when she looked inside, it was completely empty except for some furniture, decoration, and a blue haori slung over the back of a rather comfortable-looking chair. She entered the room, shutting the door behind her and locking it with a click. She moved around the room, going through files and documents, until she came across a scroll with numerous seals on it. She heard the door open as she picked up the scroll, so she swung around quickly and hid the scroll in her garments. Her heart rate slowed when she discovered that the person who had interrogated her earlier had returned. He was holding a stack of folders that appeared to be about to topple over. He gave an accomplished sigh as he wiped the imaginary perspiration from his brow, but then he noticed the woman trying to sneak out of the room. "What are you doing in here?" he inquired, and she froze in mid-step, caught. "I was looking for the ladies' room and got lost," she apologetically explained. "That's pretty stupid, huh?" "No, I sometimes get mixed up in this place," he admitted nervously. "Who would have guessed that I'd been working here since it was built?" She laughed in response to his joke. "Either he's the world's worst ninja, a charity case, or this is the best trap in the world." She pondered. "Oh, here you go. Just fill out those forms and turn them in downstairs, and the messenger guys will get back to you if you're still in the village." She took a look at the form and read it before smiling at him. "I'll make sure of it," she said as she walked towards the door. "Let me get that for you," the blue-eyed teen said as he bounded across the room, holding open the door for her and escorting her out the door. She had no idea the seal was forming on her shoulder. "I hope you come back," he said as he motioned her down the corridor. As she walked away, the blue-eyed teen waited a few moments until the woman was out of earshot before returning to his office to find Tsubaki standing next to the wall, her face as expressionless as ever. He waited a few more minutes before bursting out laughing while clutching his stomach. Tsubaki introduced himself as Kanshisha-sama. "Could you please explain why we're doing this, and why you seem so amused?" Naruto wiped his tears away and sat down at his desk to explain. "Because of the natural structure of our village, all of our secrets are very well hidden away and secured, and as such, spies from other villages never have an easy time finding anything important, and because so many hidden villages are interested in us because of what happened with Iwa, they will send in their best spies to gather information." Naruto paused, and Tsubaki nodded, assuring him that she had understood so far. "We simply appear to be letting down our guard by allowing far fewer ninja in the civilian area and making ourselves appear to be incompetent. This will confuse them and as a result they will take us lightly, giving us the opportunity to brand every spy that comes to us," Naruto said, his eyes darkening with mischief. It also allows me to play pranks on the Raikage and Mizukage. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that I couldn't pass up. I see what you're getting at now, but why would you want us to appear weak, and why would you brand them? Riku inquired as he entered the room. If we appear weak, they will leave us alone. If that fails, they will at the very least underestimate us, and a ninja who underestimates their opponents is usually dead. I see, but why do they have to be branded? The two rarest types of ninja are spies and hunters. To survive as one, you must either have talent or a certain mentality that you were born with or forced on you. As a result, I've decided to build a sort of early warning system that alerts us if any spy gets too close to our walls. As usual, Uzumaki-sama, you are brilliant. Naruto smiled, scratched the back of his head, and shook his head negatively. Akira Ne-chan came up with the idea. Naruto said this before developing a distant look in his eyes and a smile across his lips. She considered herself a spy, but if she had done any serious spying at the time, she would have been killed. However, she was pretty good at gathering information for a young teenager without much training. Somewhere in Rice Field Country, the ground began to ripple and then rise up like a termite mound before revealing a stunningly attractive woman in her late teens with wavy brown hair, green eyes, and tanned skin. "Achoo!" she exclaimed. "What the hell happened? Someone must be talking about me because I can't possibly have a cold." She looked around and saw that she had emerged exactly where she wanted to be, the field where she, Naruto, and Hinata had first met Master Kyoshi. She turned in the direction of the town she remembered and vanished in a blur. She arrived in town after a few hours of running and began digging for information. "Let's see," she thought to herself, "Naruto-kun said to look for his name if I wanted to find him." She entered a bar and sat out of sight to listen in on all conversations going on around her. "Hey, have you heard?" asked the first drunken man. "What?" asked the second drunken man. "They said that some unnamed village in New Uzumaki slaughtered 300 Iwa ninja." "That's old hat. I heard that the night before they were all wiped out, they were stalked by a demon of some sort, and by the time the next day came, they were all too scared to fight and wanted to give up," said drunk number 2. "You consume far too much alcohol," number 1 drunk was stated. "How come you?" "Uzumaki no Kuni," Akira thought with a smile on her lips. That was far too easy, but Naruto was never very good at being cryptic, at least not to her. She took up her pack and walked over to the two men, where she sat. "Excuse me, gentlemen," she said, smiling as she pushed out her chest to get the drunken men's attention. "Do you happen to know how to get to that new unnamed village you mentioned?" They exchanged blank stares before returning to her and spitting out directions. "Thank you, boys," she said as she walked out of the bar, stroking one on the head. Later that day, he'd noticed that all of his money had vanished from his wallet, and he'd be too drunk to notice that he hadn't spent it all on sake. This time. "You keep mentioning this Akira person of yours, will we?" Riku began, but a Chunin burst through the door with a scroll containing a claw with the number 5 written on it. "Please forgive me, Kanshisha-sama, but this just came in from Jin-sama." "Whatever, give it to me." Before anyone could blink, Naruto dashed across the room and snatched the scroll from the man's grasp. A satisfied smile appeared on his face as he read the contents. "Can you tell me what it says, Kanshisha-sama?" Riku inquired. "Riku, go to the hospital and tell the director to prepare the emergency room and keep it ready until it is needed, and to be ready for critical arrivals within 10 days. "May I inquire as to why?" "The return of Dragon number 10 is almost here." Then he turned the scroll so Riku could read it, and as he did, realization struck him. Uchiha Sasuke has killed the snake Sannin Orochimaru and is now forming a team, the letter stated. We will continue to pursue the target in secret, per your orders. I'm going to notify the medical department right away. Summon Hinata, Tsubaki. Good day, Uzumaki-sama. She said it and then vanished. Good, Naruto said, summoning his secretary. Send our fastest messenger bird to Konoha and inform them that retrieval 2 has begun, along with the following: hold of pursuit until. So it's finally you, the tank's water said, then you defeated Orochimaru. Yay, the dark-haired teen from outside the tank said, gripping his sword, but more importantly, let's get you out of here. He slowly unsheathed his sword as he spoke those words, and in the blink of an eye, he was resheathing it after slashing through the cylindrical tank. The water spewed out with the sudden release, and a human head formed in the puddle on the ground. I'm finally out, he said as a body formed around him. Thank you, Sasuke. Suigetsu, you're the first, Sasuke said monotonously, come with me. So, I'm the first, huh? Suigetsu asked, his body gradually forming. Who are the others? Jugo from the north hideout and Karen from the south hideout. Suigetsu grunted in displeasure. What? Sasuke inquired. I don't like those two, he replied, and we might not get along. You don't have to like each other. Just work as a team, Sasuke said authoritatively, which Suigetsu didn't like. Put some clothes on and let's go. Do you think you have the authority to order me around just because you killed Orochimaru? Get something straight about how this partnership works, Suigetsu said as he stood to his full height. Suigetsu was behind Sasuke in an instant, one arm around his neck and the index finger of the other pressing up against his head. You weren't the only one out for Orochimaru. We all wanted to kill him, he smiled, and because you were his favorite, you had the best chance. Sasuke didn't blink or flinch in the least, which seemed to please Suigetsu because he smiled more. Your heart rate and breathing didn't budge an inch, Suigetsu said as he let him go. I guess you killing Orochimaru wasn't an accident or coincidence. Alright, let's go. As if nothing had happened, Sasuke said. Suigetsu and Sasuke were standing outside the base at the time, with Suigetsu sipping water and another canister of water on his hip. Oi, Sasuke, I'd like to go collect something before we go get the other two. It's critical, Suigetsu stated. Fine. Tsunade had just received Naruto's message in Konoha, and she was wondering how reliable Naruto's information on this incident was when Shizune burst into the office. Did you summon me, Tsunade-sama? You're running late, Shizune. Please accept my apologies, Tsunade-sama. I was in the midst of surgery. Alright, take a look at this. Shizune's eyes widened when she saw the message she had given her. This implies. Yeah, Tsunade cut her off. Naruto-kun had everything planned, and his information is coming in much faster than we expected. She then smiled and chuckled slightly. I'm still curious how he intends to pull this off. What are your plans? Shizune inquired. Call Team Kakashi right away. I'll brief them myself. Kakashi, Sakura, Shino, Kiba, and Akamaru, as well as a brown-haired Junin who none of the Chunin knew, were in her office within moments. When Kakashi sensed the atmosphere in the office, he immediately put his book down and listened intently to what his Hokage had to say. Kakashi, Tsunade began, her gaze authoritative. I have a mission for your team that is of the utmost importance. This is an S-rank retrieval mission in which you will rendezvous and coordinate with the Kanshisha of Arashigakure no Sato. Does it mean anything if Naruto himself is going to be there? Yes, Kakashi, the target is Uchiha Sasuke, she stated calmly and firmly. Due to the sensitive nature of this mission, Kakashi will provide you with the necessary information as you proceed. Does that mean we'll be infiltrating one of Orochimaru's bases? Kiba wondered. No, the only reason this mission is possible is because Orochimaru was killed by Sasuke's hands, she said, drawing a collective gasp in her office before continuing. This information was gathered by Arashi and is only a few hours old. I'll never know how Naruto obtained it. Now go, and be prepared to move at a moment's notice, Kakashi. Tsunade gave him the most serious look after the others filed out of the room and the door closed behind them. Would I be mistaken in assuming it's time to carry out Naruto's plan? No, you would not be incorrect, Tsunade sighed. So you already understand Konoha's role in this joint assignment? Yes, Hokage-sama, we are to distract whoever tries to prevent us from retrieving Sasuke while Naruto and his team do so. Very good, Kakashi, but there is some other information you should be aware of. Kakashi's eyes shifted. The reason we are not immediately going after Sasuke is because he is currently gathering a team. No doubt he will go after Itachi once his team is assembled. Naruto-kun was correct about him going after Itachi, but a team of unknown ninja may cause unwanted trouble, given who else may be present. Tsunade knew exactly who he was referring to, and despite his prowess as a ninja, Kakashi had no illusions of defeating Uchiha Madara. That was one ninja he hoped would die. A team would be difficult, but that won't be much an issue once known information comes in. Do we have any spies in the area? No, but that could be the only reason Arashi has this kind of information so soon after it happened. Tsunade smiled. Be ready to deploy the moment more information comes in. Dismissed. Hi, and he was gone in a shunshin. Excuse me, Tsunade-sama? Shizune inquired tentatively. What exactly is it, Shizune? I had the distinct impression that there was someone with whom you were attempting to avoid contact and who is exerting considerable effort to keep occupied. Is such a person so dangerous? Shizune, if he were less dangerous, I would have told you who that person is. Tsunade frowned, but as it stands, there may only be 5 people in the world who are aware of his existence, and I don't think any of us can defeat him. Wouldn't this then be a suicide mission? Tsunade glared at Shizune, instantly silenced the dark-haired woman. Of course not, Shizune. We're not looking for alive and kicking Uchiha Sasuke and Itachi, Tsunade replied. We are only a distraction. If all goes well, we should be able to thwart a formidable foe while gaining a formidable ally. I hope you're correct, Tsunade-sama. The next day, Sasuke and Suigetsu were in a small cemetery in Wave Country, staring at the recently dug-up graves of Momochi Zabuza and Haku. Suigetsu's annoyance was as visible as the sun in the sky, despite Sasuke's unreadable feature. What the hell, Sasuke, I thought you said it was here. Suigetsu raged. It was. Then, where is it now? I'm not sure, he said, shifting his gaze to the empty grave. What exactly is it? Suigetsu inquired, noticing Sasuke's inquiring gaze. I have an idea where it is, but pursuing it would be a waste of time. What do you mean? Who has my beheading sword? Only my team and a few others from this place know where these two are buried, Sasuke explained, adding, they also took his body. What does that even have to do with anything? The grave next to Zabuza's belonged to a boy named Haku, who possessed a Kekkei Genkai that allowed him to create and manipulate Hyouten. Oh, I see. This was most likely done by Konoha in order to obtain a new bloodline. I never thought they'd do something like that, he laughed. Don't forget, Orochimaru was a Konoha shinobi as well, Sasuke pointed out, but this was not done by Konoha. Only the Sandaime knew the full details of this mission. I'm thinking my former teammate Naruto had something to do with it. Are we going to go after him? No, Sasuke said as he walked away from the grave, because I have no idea where he is now and I have no intention of asking Konoha, and we have more important things to do. Arg, Suigetsu grumbled, clearly disappointed in his missed opportunity but still following. He would kill Sasuke whenever he got the chance. After all, he was the second devil Zabuza. But that would have to wait because Sasuke was too skilled right now, and a better opportunity would come along while he was still useful. I'm pretty sure it's you, Naruto, but what purpose would you have in removing that boy's body? So, where are we going now? The Southern Refuge. The rain poured incessantly on the roofs and roads of Rain Country, to the point where going out unprotected could result in drowning from the precipitation. This, however, was a welcome blessing for a small frog that raised its head above the water. But this was no ordinary toad. It looked around for a moment before opening its mouth, and as it did so, a hand stretched out, connected to Jiraiya the Gama Senin's body. He stood tall, and the rain washed him from head to toe. He smiled to himself as he took a serious look around. He had accomplished something that few, if any, others had. He had successfully infiltrated AIM's civil war-torn country. What he didn't realize was that the rain, while appearing to be a normal deluge, was actually Pain's handiwork. The rain was actually a security system, alerting him to any intruders. Jiraiya had no way of knowing this as he shrouded himself in a cloak and walked through the streets, looking around. "Someone has disturbed the rain," said an orange-haired man with numerous body piercings. "How many intruders are there?" inquired the blue-haired woman. "Only one," he said as he extended his hand to perform hand seals, "and as soon as I do, I'll scout to see who it is and report back." "Hi," she said, raising her hands in a seal to prepare to cast her jutsu when the rain stopped. His team was now assembled, and they only had one goal in mind, a goal that Sasuke had had since the night his brother told him to run and cling to life in the most disgusting way. Uchiha Itachi was their target. The reality, however, was that he would simply use them as a deterrent to anyone who interfered with his and Itachi's fight. He had thrown away those who called themselves his friends, he had numbed his heart to love, he had abandoned the village that was not only partly founded by his clan, but the only home he had ever known. He had suffered greatly at the hands of Uchiha Itachi and had sacrificed an equal amount to achieve his vengeance, so nothing could stand in his way of retribution. His team was an odd bunch of people, including a love-struck kunoichi in tight shorts, fuchsia-colored hair, and glasses. Despite her outward appearance, she was one of the few who was very loyal to Orochimaru, and she had quite the talent for sensing chakra, more like a chakra bloodhound than anything else. The strangeness began with the team's second member. Except for the pointy shark-like teeth, he didn't appear strange at first glance. However, a well-placed strike at any part of his body would reveal that he was primarily made of water. Suigetsu was the name. The final member was a teen with orange hair and a very passive and calm demeanor. Despite this, he was the strangest and deadliest of them all because he was Jugo, the source of Orochimaru's cursed seal, but he also had another personality that was a grotesque monster capable of altering his body and was completely insane, bent on murdering anything that didn't scare it. The only thing keeping this team together was Sasuke. Without him, they would almost certainly kill each other. None of them liked the other, which could explain why they were kept apart. "From now on, we will be known as Hebi," Sasuke told his team, and Hebi has only one goal, and that is to kill Uchiha Itachi. Any questions? Suigetsu raised his hand while drinking some water. "Can you tell me where I can get a sword?" Zabuza Senpai's Kobukuri Hucho would have been nice, but we don't know what happened to that. Hoshigaki Kisame, Itachi's partner, has a sword you might like. Then why didn't you say so earlier, Sasuke? Suigetsu asked, a malicious grin on his face. "I'd love to get my hands on Kisame Senpai's Samahata." I expected you to, so let's go." "Where are you going?" We require supplies as well as clothing. As the rain began to fall, Itachi and Kisame walked across a grassy plain. An old man with a mark across his nose hung, seemingly lifeless, from the tip of Kisame's great sword. This was the Jinchuriki of the Yonbi, and based on their conversation as they made their way into the forest to escape the rain, he was a formidable foe. As they continued, they both abruptly stopped what they were doing and shimmered into a lantern-lit cavern as projections of their true selves. They formed a ring with the other Akatsuki members. "You're late," the leader said. "We just caught the Jinchuriki," Kisame explained, "and we needed to tie him down better so he didn't escape, which is why we're late." "Very well," the leader said, looking around at the assembled members. "It appears that no one is missing." "Alright, I'd like to start sealing the Yonbi," Kisame said. "Wait a minute," the leader said, "there's something else I want to say." "About what?" Kisame inquired. "Someone has passed away." "Well, since we're all here, who is it?" "Orochimaru." The remaining members appeared to be intrigued by this. "Ha ha ha, that bastard deserves it," Hidan added. "He should have accepted Jashin." "Doesn't the fact that Orochimaru left Akatsuki 10 years ago mean we don't have to look for him any longer?" Kisame wondered. "Those who did the job must be very strong." "Who did it?" "Uchiha Sasuke," the leader replied. Itachi didn't blink or appear surprised by this revelation, but if one looked closely into his Sharingan eyes, they would notice a deep sadness. "I wish I could kill Orochimaru myself." Added Deidara. "Wow. Impressive," Kisame said, "that's some brother you've got there." Itachi remained deafeningly silent. "Right now, he's gathered some companions. Some ninja who could cause trouble for us," said Zetsu calmly. "Do you know them?" Kisame inquired. "You should know them as well," the leader added. "One of them is one of the Hazuki brothers from Hidden Mist Village." "Suigetsu?" Kisame recalled. "It's been a while." "The other is Jugo of Tenpin," the leader said monotonously. "Itachi, Kisame, watch your back, they will surely try to find you." He turned to the others, "And as for the rest of you, remember what I told you about Uchiha Sasuke. If his team finds out too much about Kisame and Itachi, Akatsuki's plans may be thwarted." Deidara turned to Kisame, an excited grin on his face, after acknowledging the leader's words. "What kind of guy is Suigetsu, Kisame?" "About 10 years ago, he was a nice-looking boy, always smiling," Kisame added, "but because he was always tearing up his opponent's legs and arms, and cutting their heads off." Kisame paused for dramatic effect, completely engrossing Deidara. "He was dubbed the second Devil Zabuza, a murder prodigy." This seemed to excite Deidara about the prospect of fighting and killing him. If he couldn't have Orochimaru, he'd have to settle for someone else. They sound very interesting. After 3 days. Kakashi could tell he was summoned to the Hokage's office as soon as he walked in. "Is it time?" he inquired. "Yes," she replied, handing him a scroll. "All you need to know is on that scroll." With that, Kakashi turned and walked out the door, but as he did so, he overheard Tsunade say one more thing. "Take care, Kakashi." "Thank you very much, Hokage-sama." Kakashi then assembled his team, and they were all assembled at the gate in a matter of moments. "Alright, I'll give you the specifics once we meet with Naruto and his team, but in the meantime, I want you all to be fully aware and paying attention to your surroundings." They all agreed. The meeting area was agreed upon by Naruto and Tsunade-sama. "Let's go." He jumped into the trees, Yamato and the rest of the team right on his ankles. They didn't notice a shadow following them, doing its best to stay several steps behind and completely out of sight. Naruto and Tsubaki were in the council chamber with his 3 advisors and the head of the medical department, Mika. He was dressed in his battle gear, the same as when he fought the Iwa Shinobi at the waterfall. He summoned them to inform them of what they would need to do in his absence and to hear the hospital's readiness report. The purpose of using the secretive council chamber was to inform the council of his suspicions about when the attempted coup would occur, as well as to inform the medical head about the condition she should expect when they returned. The fact that Itachi would be almost dead and only hanging on by Naruto's seal was a sensitive subject that could be harmful to them if anyone discovered they had the Mangekyo Sharingan's wielder in a state where he could be putty in their hand. Not to mention that bringing Sasuke into the village would draw a lot of attention if anyone found out. He trusted the current medical head with this information for two reasons: she was the head and would need to treat him, and she was the one who looked after Shibuki, Taki's former leader, and is quite skilled. After the meeting, Naruto opened the door to find Hinata and Kai standing to the side of it, while Mika and the advisors left. Hinata and Kai were both dressed in battle gear, though the only weapons visible on Hinata were two kodachi, one of which was strapped horizontally across her back and the other was handed to Naruto as they exited the council room. Her hair was tied back in a ponytail, with two locks falling in front of her face. "Are you ready?" he inquired. "Whenever you want," Kai said. "Alright. Let's go, we need to meet up with the Konoha team," he said as they made their way out of the tower. Naruto came to a halt as they approached the gate to give final instructions to the hidden gate guards. Tsubaki used this opportunity to take a large piece of cloth from her hip pouch and wrap it around her head until only her fierce eyes were visible, after which she tied the Hitai Ite to her forehead. "You haven't worn that Tsubaki in a long time," Naruto said as the group pushed off to meet up with their allies. "Yes, it has, but this mission is designed to be as stealthy as possible while posing a high risk, and I am quite comfortable with that." Naruto nodded, fully agreeing and comprehending. He and Hinata were also wearing something they hadn't worn since their training with Master Kyoshi, split-toed tabbies like Tsubaki. He was well aware that he would almost certainly have to deal with some formidable foes. And it was for this reason that he never wore his weights outside of the village. Ever since the incident at the daimyo's home, he realized that it made no sense to impede himself when the possibility of needing to move as quickly as possible existed. They were prepared for whatever could happen on this mission. "From now on, we will move in complete silence, remembering our primary and secondary objectives." "Hello," they all said at the same time. Meanwhile, back in the village, two men sat cross-legged in a room with only one lantern for light. One was Akahoshi, the former Hoshigaku's leader, and the other was a one-eyed, one-armed man with a cane at his side. There was a low table between them with two cups and a pot of tea on it. "So far, your information appears to be the most accurate," Danzo said as he sipped his tea. "How did you avoid suspicion?" "My information comes from the most unlikely, yet most reliable, sources," he said as the door opened and another man entered. As he entered the room, two masked men appeared out of nowhere, drawing their swords and ready to slay the intruder, but they didn't expect to be both easily disarmed while the intruder had not drawn his weapon. "Danzo, let me introduce you to the most unlikely of sources," he said as the main entered the room, Hagen Riku, also known as the Blind Nodashi and captain of Naruto's Jiraiya no Arashi, Riku-san. "Please meet the future Hokage of Konoha, Danzo." "It's a pleasure to meet you, Hokage-sama," Riku said as he sat down with them. The eye on the statue appeared, and the Yanbi's host died on the floor. "I wonder what to do next." Deidara wondered aloud. "What do you mean next?" asked Toby. "There's still a lot of work to be done." "But, Senpai, we've already finished our assignments and only have 2 more Jinchuriki to go." "Shut up, Toby," Deidara demanded. "Hitaki Kakashi is leading a team, and I want to repay him for my arm. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki is also on the move, and I have a beef with him. And Uchiha Sasuke killed Orochimaru, so I won't mind taking care of him if I get the chance." He didn't notice Itachi's gaze turn to him when he mentioned his brother during his rant. "Bu but senpai," Toby began, but was cut off. "Alright, Toby, let's go." Toby and Deidara's images faded from the cavern, leaving all the other Akatsuki members behind. When Kakashi and the Konoha nin arrived at the designated location, it was completely empty. "Hey, looks like they're running late," Kiba observed. "Or we're just early," Shino countered. "Nope, everyone's on time," a voice from behind Kiba said, prompting him to yell, leap into the air, and throw a weapon in the direction of the voice. The Konoha nin all drew their weapons at the same time and turned to face whoever had sneaked up on them so easily. They all relaxed, however, when they saw the familiar faces of Hinata and Tsubaki, Naruto with his hood lowered, and another that Kakashi recognized but did not recognize. "Damn Naruto, don't sneak up on people like that," Kiba yelled, "I could have killed you." "That is highly unlikely," he said, tossing the weapon back to Kiba while looking at Yamato. "I know you, you were at that meeting." "How did you find out?" Yamato inquired. "Your chakra is quite unique," Hinata replied, "possibly a one-of-a-kind Kekkei Genkai." "Quite perceptive, Kanshisha-sama, Lady Hinata," Yamato said. "Permit me to introduce myself, my name is Yamato, and I am one of Tsunade's soldiers." "Samas." Naruto shook Yamato's hand and said, "Nice to meet you, Yamato-san." "It's an honor," Hinata said. "Now, before I reveal any information about this mission," Naruto asked Kai-san, "would you please invite our guest in?" Kai vanished in an instant, unraveling the strings as he went. "So you noticed," Kakashi said. "I was worried from the moment we arrived here that you hadn't noticed him. I was contemplating what I should do with him in light of who he works for." Kai reappeared, a thin, paper-white, dark-haired boy slung over his shoulder, which he then dumped unceremoniously on the ground. "Oh, I see what you're saying, Kakashi," Naruto explained. "What were you doing following us, Sai?" Sakura demanded. "Isn't it obvious, Sakura? He's a Danzo spy, isn't that right, Sai?" Sai said nothing but kept that annoying grin on his face. "Kakashi, you didn't say anything particularly significant, did you?" "No." "Good," Naruto said, his smile almost erasing the one on Sai's face. "Today is your lucky day, Sai, except you can't go back." With that, Kai delivered a swift chop to the back of his neck, knocking him out cold, before binding him tightly and removing all of his possessions, leaving him with nothing but his underwear. With that out of the way, let me explain the mission specifics. Our mission is to retrieve Uchiha Sasuke, but because we don't know his exact location at the moment, we will instead target his older brother Uchiha Itachi. "Are you insane?" Kiba asked, sweating. "That man is a monster, and you want us to capture him?" "No, we just need to find him, his partner, or Sasuke. If we find Itachi or his partner, Hoshigaki Kisame, then we just need to wait until Sasuke finds him," he said with a smile. "We all know how driven the bastard can be." This appears to lift the group's spirits. "I'm assuming you've all heard of Hoshigaki Kisame," all heads nodded. "Good, Sasuke is traveling with 3 people he chose for his team. Karen, who is a talented sensory ninja and medic nin, Hazuka Suigetsu, who is mostly impervious to physical damage because his body is made of water but gets dehydrated easily, and he has a habit of hacking up his opponents. Like Zabuza, Kakashi observed. "Yes, exactly. Fortunately, he hasn't obtained Kobukari Hochu, but I have no doubt that he has obtained another sword of some kind." Naruto waited for them to process the information. "Finally, we have Jugo of Tenpin. He is the origin of Orochimaru's curse seal and has a split personality, one of which is a pacifist and despises violence, but the other is quite bloodthirsty and would not hesitate to kill everyone around him," Naruto said as he observed the serious faces of the ninja around him. "My sources also tell me that the members of this team have only one thing in common, their fear, love." Naruto then nodded to Kakashi, prompting him to explain the search strategy to everyone. After the plan was laid out, everyone divided into groups and began their search. Karen walked down a village street, looking left and right for the source of the chakra she was sensing. It grew closer and closer with each step until it began to grow further and further away with each step. What is this chakra? She wondered. However, as it got closer, it started to get further away. Oh well, probably nothing, she reasoned before continuing her search for information on Akatsuki, oblivious to the pink-haired kunoichi and the small dog by her side. It's been a while, Kabuto, Naruto said, as the cloaked stranger approached, but a raised hand from Naruto stopped him, promising that he would not underestimate Naruto again. What exactly do you want? Hinata inquired. Is it too much to ask just to talk to Naruto-kun? It's fine, Hinata-chan. He's not a big threat right now, isn't that right, Kabuto? Perhaps, but perhaps I'm not the only one here. I'll take a chance. Very well. Kabuto reached under his cloak, and as he pulled whatever he was pulling out from under his cloak, a hand suddenly grasped his hands from behind, and Kabuto didn't see when Naruto appeared close to his face and plucked the object out of his hand. You certainly have changed a lot, Naruto-kun, Kabuto said as Tsubaki let go of Naruto's grip and went to Naruto's side. What happened to the boy who would have gotten angry and charged head first into danger? He learned, Naruto said simply. What's in this, Kabuto? Everything we've learned about Akatsuki from our research. Wow, that is something, Naruto said as he hid the scroll beneath his coat, but why would you give it to us? In response, Kabuto's smile shifted to a more reassuring one as he raised his hands to remove the cloak. Tsubaki tightened his muscles. But when he saw Kabuto's eye, Naruto's eyes narrowed. They looked exactly like Orochimaru's, as if the dead Sannin was peering out from the dead through Kabuto's body. It wasn't enough that you tried to steal my Nindo. Now you're impersonating Kakashi. Hinata sweated, Tsubaki didn't move, and Kabuto became enraged with that statement until he was able to control himself. All jokes aside, Naruto-kun, it is because of you that I have the courage to do this, to push past my limits and surpass my master, he said, his mood darkening. However, because Sasuke-kun killed him, I am now attempting to defeat him by defeating his chakra. A sick grin broke out. It is difficult, his chakra is truly powerful, but thanks to you, I will succeed, and when I do. Kabuto wrapped his hands in a seal and began to fade away. I will make Sasuke pay for what he did to Orochimaru-sama before I settle my score with you. He then vanished. Alright, let's go. Yes, it's almost time to get together. Naruto created 3 Kage Bunshin and hanged one into Tsubaki and another into Kai, while Hinata created one of herself and the originals leapt away from the copies. When Deidara left the Akatsuki, he went in search of a fight, or more specifically, one of the few people he had set out to kill. He was enraged at Kakashi, Naruto, and Sasuke for various reasons, and he would not be satisfied until he repaid the favor in full. When he caught Sasuke and attacked him right away, faith may or may not have been on his side. Throughout the fight, Sasuke kept asking where his brother was, but Sasuke's lack of interest in the fight and constant evasion of Deidara's explosives only served to enrage Deidara. It eventually came down to a desperate suicide attack of monumental proportions, which even Sasuke's Sharingan couldn't save him from. Deidara fed his clay into the mouth on his chest, and his body slowly vanished, leaving nothing but a small, black, dense orb that exploded in such a beautiful and terrifying way that it could be seen for miles. Unfortunately, Sasuke escaped, albeit narrowly, by summoning Orochimaru's favorite summon, Manda, the boss snake, and using him to shield himself in a pocket dimension. But Deidara's final work was not in vain. He may not have been able to kill Sasuke, but judging by the wonder and awe on the faces of those who saw it, they would all agree that art is a blast. Everyone could see the explosion and the strange shape it took, and from the feel of the chakra, Kakashi knew it was the Akatsuki member he had met when his team was sent to rescue Gaara. This chakra belongs to an Akatsuki member, he thought to himself. He dashed off in that direction, accompanied by his ninja hound. When Karen saw the explosion, she immediately assumed the worst. She formed a seal with her hands and concentrated, but no matter how hard she concentrated, she couldn't feel Sasuke's chakra, as if it had vanished. She took off without a second thought. When Suigetsu saw the explosion, he realized the significance of the location. That's the rendezvous point. He then removed a scroll from his belt. He didn't, he said, then noticed the snake symbol had vanished. Oh my god, he did. He, too, gave up his search. Zetsu's image reappeared at the Akatsuki base. Deidara has died, he started, and he died by using himself as a massive bomb. What a shame, I thought he was quite strong as well, Kisame said. So, was it Sasuke or the Kyuubi Jinchuriki who did it? However, Sasuke died as well. Have you decided to accompany him? Be grateful, Itachi, Pain said. Deidara gave his life to relieve one of our burdens. I'm afraid I'm forgetting something, Kisame admitted. Deidara didn't care who he blew up, Zetsu replied, so Tobi died as well. Ah, yes, Tobi, Kisame said, chuckling. It's a shame that even that scaredy cat couldn't flee in time. It had to have gone off with a bang. Whatever, anyone could have filled his spot, Pain said, but it's a shame Deidara died. Tobi had quite an ability to brighten our otherwise dark organization, Kisame said. I'll go, Pain said, putting his hands in a seal, if only to pay my respects to Deidara. He then vanished, leaving the remaining Akatsuki members in the cavern. He should have just accepted Jashin, Hidan said, this was a fucking waste of my time. I'm leaving because there's a bounty I want to collect, Kakuzu explained. Hey, you bastard, wait for me, Hidan yelled as both of their images faded away, along with Zetsu and Konan, leaving Itachi and Kisame alone in the cave. They both left the cave slowly, only to discover that it was still raining, but Itachi didn't seem to mind. In fact, he seemed to welcome it as he strode into its cold arms. Meanwhile, Suigetsu squatted beside a river, unraveling a summoning scroll and pouring blood from a vial into it before slapping his palm on the seal. Kachiyose no Jutsu, he says. As he did so, a giant snake with horns appeared in a large puff of smoke, and he immediately recognized it as Orochimaru's summon, Manda, but he couldn't understand how it was being controlled. Then he looked into its eyes and saw the Sharingan behind its pupil, and the answer became clear, it was being controlled by a genjutsu created by Sasuke's Sharingan. Suigetsu proceeded to ask him who he fought, but was interrupted by Manda. He was not pleased with being controlled by the Sharingan as if he were a pawn, but his labored breath was all he had before dying. He died, man. You do realize he was Orochimaru's favorite pet, Suigetsu pointed out. You have to treat animals better than that, you know. And to keep controlling them with genjutsu and everything. I had no choice, defended Sasuke, there was no other way. As he said this, a loud voice interrupted Suigetsu and Sasuke's conversation. It was Karen and Jugo, who asked him how he got so badly beaten up. He told them how he fought one of the Akatsuki members but underestimated his strength and barely escaped alive. I expected more from the guy who killed Orochimaru, Karen said, feigning disappointment. All it was that Orochimaru was already weakened, he explained. They all disappeared from the area after that, looking for a place to rest for a while. Had Karen not been distracted by the sight of Sasuke's body, she would have detected at least 2 chakra signatures keeping an eye on them from the trees. They're heading towards town, Hinata explained as she turned off her Byakugan, most likely for Sasuke to rest, he's badly injured. I don't think it would be a problem, Jin, the resident spymaster and infiltration specialist, said. I suspect absorbing Orochimaru's power would have given him some healing properties. I agree, Naruto said, that bastard was quite difficult to hurt when I fought him. What shall we do now, O most wonderful Kanshisha-sama? Mataza inquired. Jin and Kai, I want you to go and help the Konoha nin. They'll soon be able to pick up the trail, and that girl will be able to detect them because none of them have experience masking their chakra, Naruto said, while the rest of us will continue to trail them at a distance. Hello, they all said before splitting up to do their separate jobs. Kisame looked over at Itachi as he stood in the pouring rain. It's unusual for this time of year for rain to fall like this. There was no response from Itachi. If you stay out there too long, you'll catch a cold. Again, no response. Look, I'm not sure what you're thinking, and given how ruthless you are, saying this seems strange, he paused, but it appears that you're crying from where I am. No response yet. It's a shame about your little brother, Kisame said, but you're now the Uchiha clan's sole member. No, he's not dead yet, Itachi said calmly, and besides. What? The storm is over. The storm had passed, and the gray clouds had given way to a warm sun. Later that day, as Sasuke and his team waited in a motel room, they began to wonder what was taking Karen so long. They had decided to find a place for Sasuke to rest and regain some of his strength, as well as to share any information on the Akatsuki they had discovered. Karen found nothing. Suigetsu heard a lot about the Akatsuki but nothing specific on Itachi, only that they are after people with special kinds of chakra. What the hell happened? Suigetsu screamed from his perilous position beneath the door. Wake up, Sasuke, we're being followed. She yelled, what should we do? Jugo, grab the map and mark the location of every Akatsuki hideout you learned about, Sasuke said. They were all set and ready to go in a matter of moments, and Sasuke even noticed that his body healed much faster since absorbing Orochimaru's power. Whether it's Akatsuki or the leaf, they might know something about Itachi, Karen speculated, should we surprise them? If there are as many as you said, then it is the leaf, Sasuke said, explaining that Akatsuki only move in two-man groups. Ambushing them would be a waste of our time, Suigetsu proposed. Agreed, Sasuke said, we'll skip the leaf. What do we do then? Karen wondered. Find Itachi, Sasuke said, because if we find him, the worst case scenario is that you three will have to fight the Konoha ninja. For now, we'll search out all the hideouts that Jugo learned of. Let's go. They left, except for Karen, who held back Jugo in order to create a distraction for the Konoha nin who were hunting them by scent. It appears that Kakashi and the others have caught their scent and are fleeing, Hinata said, her Byakugan active, and they are going to search for the Akatsuki locations that the tall one, Jugo, learned of. Can he really communicate with animals? Mataza wondered. I thought only Shigure-chan could do that. No, Koko is the only animal she understands, Naruto clarified, but she can influence any animal to do what she wants except for Koko, who does what she wants because it wants to. I see, Mataza said, and thank you, most wonderful Kanshisha. They're on the move, but the girl and Jugo are tying pieces from a ripped-up shirt to the legs of birds and scattering them in all directions. They're trying to confuse whoever is using their nose, Naruto explained, which is effective, but my shadow clone can help with that. Do we want to go? Yes, let's go, and remember to keep this distance. If Karen could detect the Konoha nin from that distance, she'd be extra cautious from now on, so be careful. As Sasuke quickly discovered, no one could possibly have a completely bad day. After nearly dying at the hands of an Akatsuki member, being hunted down like an animal by Konoha, and preventing Jugo from going on a rampage, he had finally had some good luck, finding the one he had been looking for in the very first location he had tried. Maybe he knew he'd run into him, or maybe it was just a precaution to leave his team outside and search the hideout himself. Whatever it was, it didn't matter now because the man who had stolen everything from him had appeared right in front of his eyes. Itachi asked. A crow perched on his shoulder, "Have you grown at all?" "You haven't changed a bit." "Including those cold eyes," Sasuke replied. "Are you going to charge and screaming at me like the last time?" "Hey," smirked Sasuke. Itachi remained silent. "You know nothing about me." As Sasuke said this, Itachi's eyes darted to the left, only to see Sasuke appear and nail him through the botchki with his lightning attack, pinning Itachi to the high ceiling. "I'm not sure how much hatred I've bottled up in this heart, or how strong I've grown as a result of it," Sasuke said. Itachi said nothing and kept his eyes open, impassively staring at nothing until Sasuke opened his hands and multiple spikes shot out from his body from the original one that pinned him to the wall. When Sasuke felt he had done enough damage, he let go of the technique, causing Itachi to fall awkwardly to the floor. Itachi, still sitting on the floor, looked up at his younger brother with those impassive eyes. "You have grown strong," he said as the body on the ground began to splinter into a swarm of crows that flew around Sasuke and the cave as Sasuke heard Itachi's voice from all around him. "Come to the Uchiha hideout by yourself," the voices said, "we can settle things there." All of the crows disintegrated, and black feathers rained from the ceiling. Sasuke didn't have time to think about the strange occurrence, especially since he had an appointment. Because Karen detected another chakra, he and his team members entered the cave to assist. "We're on the move," Sasuke said, "follow me." "By the looks of their haste, Naruto-kun, I'd say it's about to begin," Hinata said. "Indeed," Naruto said as they followed Sasuke and his team into the distance. When they came to a halt again, it appeared that Sasuke had gone ahead and left his team in the care of Hoshigaki Kisame, who was giving Suigetsu a lesson in swordsmanship. Suigetsu was clearly going to lose. He was using a Zanbatsu and was clearly not strong enough to wield it efficiently, whereas Kisame was gracefully wielding his Samahata. "Neither of them will let us pass easily because Kisame isn't taking any of them seriously in his spar with Suigetsu," Hinata observed from a distance with her Byakugan. Hinata exclaimed, and a smile spread across her face. "What exactly is it, Tsukihana?" Naruto inquired. "It appears that if I stay in one position for a long enough period of time, she can pinpoint my exact location, even at this distance," Hinata explained. "Does that mean she can detect us even if our chakra is suppressed?" Naruto wondered. "I don't think so. She seemed surprised every time I used my Byakugan. I assumed it was Kakashi and his group she detected, but now I know it was me, and she hasn't detected you yet because you've kept your chakras suppressed." "What about us, Hinata-sama?" Mataza inquired. "Tsubaki-san and I are unable to suppress our chakra." "Yes, I was wondering about that," Hinata admitted. "She may not have paid much attention to that because Tsubaki-san's chakra is that of Genin, so we will not strike her as a team of Junin or any of the Akatsuki. She might be getting suspicious if her sensory ability is that good to pinpoint locations," Naruto said, his face serious. "Tsubaki and Mataza will handle Kisame, Hinata, you will handle Suigetsu, and I will handle Jugo and Karen." Naruto continued after everyone nodded. "First, I'll take Karen out, then." "Damn," Karen said, attracting Jugo's attention. "What's the matter, Karen?" he inquired. "There are a few chakra signatures in that direction," she said, drawing a kunai and preparing herself. Kisame and Suigetsu, who were engaged in combat, noticed her behavior and stopped what they were doing. Kisame was perplexed, but Suigetsu understood exactly what he meant. "Did they catch up to us that quickly?" Suigetsu wondered as he took a seat next to Karen. "No, these are not Konoha," she said as she focused her attention on the chakras she felt. "There are 3 of them, 1 genin and 2 junin. A genin, are you sure? Suigetsu mocked. Are you doubting my ability? Karen inquired, receiving only a huff in response, didn't think so. Then they have nothing to do with us if that's the case. I thought so, too, but 2 of those signatures have stayed away from us ever since I realized Konoha was after us. I thought you said there were 3 of them? Jugo inquired. That third person seems to be able to mask his chakra and make it completely vanish, even from me, she said as worry began to creep in. How do you know if you can feel them now? Because that third person chakra seemed to appear and disappear at random times while I was sensing them. How is this even possible? Jugo inquired. I'm not sure, she said, clutching her kunai tighter, but whoever that third person is has a ridiculous amount of chakra. Kisame's toothy grin appeared as he listened in on their conversation. They must be exceptionally good to keep track of you while not getting close enough to arouse your suspicions, Kisame pondered aloud, but to be able to do that while not being within range of our senses is quite difficult, impossible even for most. They have to have a sensor type like Karen among them, Jugo speculated. Oh, look, here they come. What else can you tell us? Suigetsu inquired. They're coming from this direction, she said, pointing, and they're moving straight towards us without deviating from that path. Let them come, Suigetsu said, they won't catch us off guard, we outnumber them, we have the high ground, so their ambush has already failed. They all turned in the direction she indicated. Jugo began to partially transform, Suigetsu prepared his Zanbatu, and Kisame simply hoisted his Samahata with a smirk. They're moving quickly, really quickly, Karen said, and they'll be here any second. Kisame barely jumped out of the way of a swarm of senbon needles that caught everyone else off guard. However, Karen was the only victim as the sting of the needles made themselves known only to her. Huh? Jugo said as he saw the shocked look on Karen's face as he looked around frantically for his foe when he saw the light glint of a weapon flying at him too fast to be possible. He was struck in the shoulder with the weapon, a good sign considering it was meant for his heart, and since it was Jugo, a flesh wound like that was simply an annoyance. A sick smile smeared across his lips as his crazed alter. Karen lay motionless on the roof as Jugo searched for his foe, feeling herself slowly fade away into blackness. How, she wondered to herself, I had no idea. Sense. That. 1. As a result, the darkness enveloped her and her body relaxed. Shit. Karen's down and Jugo's going crazy, Suigetsu said as he frantically searched behind him for the unknown enemy, and Karen didn't even sense that one. Suigetsu's arm exploded in a shower of water as a kunai with an exploding note attached to it impacted, forcing him to leap off the roof to avoid further surprises from this unknown foe, but all his fears were instantly washed away as he laid eyes on his foe. A beautiful girl in her teens wearing a brocade corset over a Monsky kimono and an ankle-length skirt with a deep slit along. What have we got here? If you think that my missing an arm will give you some kind of advantage. Smirked Suigetsu as he stabbed his Zanbatu into the ground and reached for the canteen on his hip. When he drank the water, his arm grew back. Then reconsider. I'd rather not fight someone as powerful as yourself, so please surrender so that we can continue, Hinata asked. Suigetsu's mouth curved into a toothy grin. So you did it to me, and judging by your appearance, you must be the genin, Suigetsu said as he approached the girl, but what if my arm wasn't made of water? Meanwhile, Kisame was forced to abandon his position when metal spikes shot up from the roof, but as he landed, he immediately turned and swung his Samahata at the annoying person behind him, but his weapon met with nothing but air, and the annoying person was still behind him. It appears we've reached a stalemate here, Kisame said, you're too close to do anything despite being behind me, and my sword is too large to get you this close. A casual observer would notice that the person standing behind Kisame was in the exact same position and stance that Kisame had, and that every time Kisame moved, the person moved exactly in sync with him. This was the Reizoku clan's secret taijutsu style, a style that could defeat even the Uchiha's Sharingan. It was known as Kage Odori. Even though the Senju were better at taijutsu and the Uchiha's Sharingan allowed them to stay one step ahead of any opponent, it didn't matter if your opponent countered your every move from your blind spotter. Of course, if they had the opportunity, they would have preferred to wipe out the damnable clan and learn how they managed to so precisely follow body movements without a Sharingan or any dojutsu, but none held closer to the ninja code than the Reizoku clan, and they frequently appeared to just vanish in the blink of an eye. No one ever heard of this clan, nor did they make themselves public, and they survived by doing the shadowy jobs that never brought any kind of glory or attention. "Surrender," said the clearly feminine voice, "you have no hope of escape." Kisame smiled and asked a question while looking over his shoulder. The person did not move or flinch at his shark-like features or sharp teeth. "Who are you looking for?" "Oh, and tell your friend he can come out of his hiding spot, he cannot hide from me," he inquired. "How unsightly," the man said as he emerged from his hiding place, "such a face as yours should never see the light of day." Meanwhile, Jugo found himself staring into the dark abyss that was Naruto's coat, a predatory smirk on his face as he charged hastily at his prey that strangely didn't move. All the better in his book. However, as he neared him, and cocked back his arm to deliver a tremendous blow, his prey merely sidestepped and with a kunai slashed a deep. "Stand still, you worm," Jugo yelled as he delivered a straight punch, to which Naruto simply jumped back to make room. "This doesn't seem to be working," Naruto observed. "He can regenerate, is powered by pain, and there are no weak or pressure points to exploit." Jugo charged at Naruto once more, intent on caving his face in. "Like an animal," Naruto said as he slipped into his Odayaka Kotetsu form, strong, powerful, and incapable of thinking for himself. Sasuke appears to have inherited his master's preferences in subordinates. As Jugo brought his mallet-like fist down on Naruto, Naruto sidestepped Jugo's advance, getting into his guard. Then, within the blink of an eye and 3 strikes later, Jugo staggered back with 3 gaping holes in his body, 1 on each shoulder and 1 in his gut. "You would heal from this," Naruto said as he stepped up to Jugo, wrapping a tight grip around his neck and leaking killing intent as he looked Jugo in the eyes, "but I already knew this and would rather not have to kill you." Naruto's grip tightened around Jugo's neck as the mutated teen struggled against Naruto's unrestrained grip. "However, if you persist, my next strike will be your last." Jugo's eyes widened in terror as the cursed mark faded, leaving only the orange-haired giant of a teen who would have suffocated if he hadn't been too scared to breathe. Today, however, would not be his day of death because, just before the darkness took him, the pressure on his windpipe was gone, allowing him to breathe once more. "What is your name?" "That is unimportant, Jugo of Tenpin," Naruto said as he stood over the teen, "but for the time being, I need you to stay put while my team finishes off your team in Kisame. Hinata and Suigetsu are back." "Well, I suppose it was a good thing it was made of water," Hinata said as Suigetsu made a horizontal swing at the seemingly prone girl's neck, only to come to a halt a few inches away, "for the both of us." "What in the world did you do?" Suigetsu struggled to regain control of his body, only to discover that it was futile. "You should know better than to inquire about a ninja's secrets. Please respond, bitch." Suigetsu, who had been imprisoned inside a tank for who knows how long, valued freedom above all else, but now he was unable to control his own body, which was far worse than simple imprisonment. "Tisk, tisk, tisk, haven't you been taught any manners? Anyway, follow me please," Hinata said as she walked around him, sinking a fingernail into his cheek and dragging it around to his head while the water that made up his body rippled in her finger's wake. Suigetsu had other plans as he walked diligently behind her, then attempted to cleave her in vertical halves, but again he was frozen when his blade missed her completely and she appeared on his left, but this didn't last long as he attempted to cut her at the waist, only for his Zanbato to pass unimpeded through her as it too faded away. Bunshin no Jutsu? He inquired, his blade still in the final position of his swing. Now, lower this bladed slowly so that I may get off, Hinata said, standing on the edge of his Zanbato. How come you? Whatever Suigetsu was about to say was cut short when he realized his body was no longer his to control because he couldn't talk, and he gently lowered the sword to the ground as Hinata nimbly skipped to the ground, and as she walked away, his body strapped the blade to his back and he walked quietly behind her. I can't control my body, Suigetsu screamed to himself. How is she doing this with no chakra, hand seals, or jutsu? Kisame is back. Kisame was starting to realize how ridiculously annoying the Kage Odori was. If he had been a lesser man, or even a man at all, he would have died many times due to a missing organ. He had to deal with the kunoichi at his back, who had taken on the role of his shadow, as well as the Bishonen, who could harden his body to the hardness of steel. He could also say he was lucky. The shadow dance isn't a style suited to open combat, but that didn't stop him from realizing that what he did could get him cut up. If he slashed downwards with Samahata, he would be slashed similarly. So he'd been slashed, stabbed, and would have been beheaded if Tsubaki had been tall enough. To make matters worse, the Bishonen had begun to employ ninjutsu. Hisan Kushi no Jutsu, Kinzokuden. Mataza spoke as several thin metal spikes speared straight out of the ground at a charging Kisame. Kisame would have countered with one of his ridiculously powerful water jutsu, but his left hand was already paralyzed, which is how he discovered that the woman behind him was watching everything he did. Kisame, seeing the spike heading for him, devised a strategy to eliminate at least one of them, and if he played his cards correctly, he could eliminate both. As he approached, he spun around intent on shredding the annoying girl from behind him, but if she stayed behind him, she would be skewered to death, allowing him to flee. Another flaw of the Kage Odori is the inability to see other opponents. Kisame discovered this when Tsubaki was hit by her own partner's ninjutsu. However, as Kisame turned around and prepared to leap away at the last second, two sharp pains made themselves known. A spike had pierced him through each shoulder. He had misjudged the fact that the man could speed up the spikes individually or as a group, and that is exactly what he did the moment Kisame took his eyes off him. This didn't dampen his spirits because he had gotten one of them, but that hope was dashed when he saw the person who had nearly torn out his kidney, filled his back with holes, and nearly cut off his left arm standing in front of him, complete with face mask and tabi. Hey. Looks like you got me, Kisame said as he tightened his grip on Samahata and used sheer force to force his way through the spike. Foolish creature, you're not going anywhere, Mataza explained as he flipped through a few hand seals, Hajutsu, Choutenjakai no Jutsu. As he spoke, another thin spike emerged from the ground, skewering him from behind his knee, Achilles tendon, upper thighs, elbows, and wrists, the last of which forced him to drop his Samahata. They retracted into the ground after this, forcing Kisame to be laid out on the ground like a butterfly in a display case pinned to a surface with needles. After that, he created yet another set of seals. Koganehana no Jutsu, Hajutsu. The ends of each metal spike seemed to burst open like a flower with sharp golden petals after he said this. I have no doubt you'll find a way out of this in a few days, Mataza said, but be grateful you're not dead. Tsubaki walked up to Kisame's Samahata as he said this, but she was stopped by Mataza as she was about to pick it up. Tsubaki-san, don't touch such a hideous thing, he warned. Isn't the ninjutsu I made for you beautiful enough? It is foolish to leave an enemy with his favorite weapon, Mataza couldn't argue, especially since she didn't want it. However, as her hand grasped the handle, barbs protruded from it, forcing Tsubaki to release her grip immediately. Tsubaki's hands were now bloodied and gashed. "Are you okay, Tsubaki-san?" Mataza inquired. "This is just a minor laceration," she said, bandaging her bleeding hand without flinching. "Ha ha ha. Looks like I get the last laugh," Kisame said, laughing and writhing in pain. "We'll see what happens." Mataza then molded some chakra before plunging his hand into the earth and pulling it out moments later with what appeared to be stone middens. He then approached Samahata and picked it up, despite its barbs attempting to harm him. Kisame was eventually left broken, bleeding, and staked to the ground, his prized weapon in the hands of someone else. Hidan would have blushed if he heard what he said after that. They were soon joined by Hinata and an unusually cooperative Suigetsu after Naruto had defeated his target. They roused the sleeping Karen and placed her with the rest of her team while they waited for the rest of their team while Hinata scanned the battle between Sasuke and Itachi. "I'm curious what's keeping Tsubaki and Mataza so busy," Naruto inquired. "I'm sorry for keeping you waiting, most wonderful Kanshisha-sama," Mataza said as he and Tsubaki approached Naruto and bowed on one knee, "but please accept this gift as an apology." "There's no need for an apology, Mataza. I expected nothing less from Zabuza's former teammate," Naruto said as he extended his hand to grasp the sword, "but, is that? How did you get Kisame's sword, and how did you find out about Zabuza?" Suigetsu asked, but he was ignored. Naruto's hand was stopped by Mataza's and Tsubaki's before he could lay a hand on Samahata. "What happened to your hand, Tsubaki?" Naruto took her hand in his and unwrapped the bandages to examine the wound. "There's no need to be concerned about such a minor injury, Uzumaki-sama." After careful inspection, it appeared that even though her hands were severely lacerated, that was the worst that could happen. Naruto placed his hand on hers, causing the wounds to knit together. "Think of it as getting you back to 100%, Naruto said as he finished and produced a scroll from which a blank scroll, ink, and a brush were unsealed, before sealing the sword into the scroll and handing it to Mataza to hold. "Who are you, and how could you hide your chakra from me in such a way?" Naruto turned to face the person who had asked the question, then asked Hinata his own. "What is the current state of the fight?" he inquired. "Sasuke is on his last legs and appears to have unleashed a last-ditch technique of immense power from which Itachi had no hope of escaping." "Haha," said Suigetsu, "I knew Sasuke could do it. However, it appears that the technique has failed because Itachi is using a technique far beyond my imagination." Hinata squinted. "I think he calls it Susanoo." Everyone could hear her astonishment in her voice. "And there's another person there watching the fight. It appears that our mission is nearing completion, Mataza," Naruto said as he removed the hood and cast an icy gaze on Sasuke's three companions. "Suigetsu, I can see the murder in your eyes, just like Zabuza. How did you come to know him? You know it will only lead to death, eventually your own, which is why you follow him. Karen, I can tell you're madly in love with him. That's the only reason a talented kunoichi like yourself would work for him. Do not be fooled by his outward appearances. On the inside, he is nothing more than a troubled child who has yet to come to terms with the death of his parents. This is a critical juncture in his life, and if he takes the wrong path, it would be a shame for you to suffer the consequences." "What exactly do you mean?" she inquired, concerned about her future. "And you, Jugo, I can see your pain, and it is still there. It is a pain I am familiar with. Trying to hide behind someone to tame the beast within will only lead to more pain. There is another way to tame the beast and truly become strong." Naruto then walked away from the three, who had realized Naruto and Mataza were the only ones left. "I didn't even notice them leaving," Karen reflected. "Why are you telling us so much?" Jugo inquired. "From now on, never seek Sasuke again," Naruto said calmly, "for you're in his sake. Dwell on what I have said, and when you have made a decision, seek the village of storms and ask." He vanished in a puff of smoke after placing his 2 fingers in front of his lips. Bunshin Cage? When the hell did he do that? Suigetsu, the least surprised of the 3, inquired. Isn't he wonderful? Anyway, you can leave when you no longer sense their chakras or when I am told to leave you 3, and don't try to lie. The color of your hair is far too beautiful to mar it with the face of an ugly leer, Mataza said, expecting something from the 3. He'd thrown away his home, his family, his pride, his trust, and for a brief moment, his very soul, and for 3 years he'd trained to destroy the monster that plagued his nightmares, the monster he blamed for everything he'd lost, but it all seemed like a pointless waste now that that monster was slowly shambling to him with half-lidded eyes and blood leaking out of his mouth. When Itachi's finger finally made it to him, his breath caught in his throat, but he was surprised when all that happened was a half-hearted finger flick on his forehead, and just like that, the greatest prodigy of the Uchiha clan collapsed. The light draining from his eyes, Uchiha Itachi was dead. Sasuke smiled, his previous fear forgotten as his brother lay dead at his feet. He would have laughed, but his state was not that much better than the corpse that lay before him. He was just barely alive himself, but alive nonetheless. So, with his smile of victory on his face and his pride and lust for vengeance momentarily satiated, Uchiha Sasuke passed out to bask in the blissful sleep that is the spoils witch. Excellent work, Kurahime-san, Hinata said. That was perfectly timed by you. Of course, but I'd like to get away from these black flames, the summon said. Whatever this flame is, it even burns in the rain. Hinata then extracted a small communicator. Mission completed, the package is secure, she said before getting a few responses from the group. Those who knew the mission's primary goal were aware that it was not 1, but 2 packages. The primary goal was to extract Uchiha Itachi, and the secondary goal was to recover Uchiha Sasuke. They could go home now that the mission was over. Let's go home, Kurahime-san, Naruto said, beginning a set of seals known as Kagesachi no Jutsu. It required some concentration, but performing that technique while moving was not impossible. It simply required more concentration or chakra. If anyone had been watching the sky during the battle, they would have seen a large eagle with 3 passengers and 2 captives vanish into the wind like so much smoke. Several moments later, the air around them warped and twisted until a humanoid figure appeared and surveyed the battleground. What he was looking for wasn't there, which perplexed him. Suddenly, something from the ground appeared. At first glance, it appeared to be a horribly mutated Venus flytrap, but upon closer inspection, it was revealed to be only Zetsu. Where are they? He inquired. I was hoping you'd tell me, said the man in the swirly mask. They were standing right there when we left. As the possibility of what happened became clear, the swirly masked man made no further response. He was duped and distracted while the real extraction was taking place right in front of his eyes. He was not pleased at all, and Zetsu made himself scarce as a result. He had lost this battle today, but the next move was his, and he only needed 2 more Jinchuriki. Uchiha Madara, also known as Tobi, vanished with an unnoticeable scowl on his face hidden behind his mask. Using Kisame, Zetsu emerged from the ground slowly, in front of an almost unconscious Kisame who had managed to free one of his arms. To say he was angry would be an understatement. It was his anger that kept him trying to pull his hands free from the remaining spikes. He. Look what we've got here, one half of Zetsu said. Looks like you could use some assistance, Kisame-san. Just get me out of here, Kisame screamed, furious, 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 furious. Meanwhile, with Jugo and the rest of the team. Understood, Mataza said as he walked away into the surrounding forest. Where are you going? Karen inquired. My mission is complete, and the overall mission was a success, so you are now free to do as you wish. Remember what my master said. Wait, what about Sasuke? Yelled Karen as he backed away. What will I do now? She wondered aloud, more to herself than to anyone else. Suigetsu and Jugo both stood up and followed the nin as she said this. What are you two doing? Karen inquired. I don't know what happened to Sasuke, but it's obvious that he was captured by those guys, he explained, but more importantly, he has two things I want and I'm going to get them, and there's only one place to get them, and that's where he is. How about you, Jugo? Where are you going? There isn't much hope for me, and even fewer options, Jugo sighed, but he said there is another way, and if there is a way, then I must seek it out. Karen hung her head. As a former servant of Orochimaru, there was no one who would welcome her and even fewer who would not kill her on sight just for associating with the fallen snake Sanin. But maybe there was a place for her. Maybe she could find the man who had soundly defeated Jugo in his insane state and had hidden from her senses. I guess I should come along with you too, just to make sure you don't get into too much trouble, Karen said, receiving a stern glare from Suigetsu. Besides, Sasuke's teammate seems interesting. What do you mean? Jugo inquired. Isn't it obvious, Jugo? Suigetsu asked. He obviously met Zabuza senpai and knows Sasuke, that is the former teammate he once told me about. He has both Zabuza's Kobukuri Hucho and Kisame, Samahata. I see, Jugo said as they continued to walk silently, even after they lost sight of the ninja they were following, who had left them with a note that read, if there is something you want badly enough, you have to look for it.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.